so I don't forget to do that. And then let me pull up uh, our agenda for tonight, our PowerPoint for tonight. If I get soft and you can't hear me, just let me know and I'll bump it up a little bit. Tonight we're going to talk about getting the most out of supervision, and so what we want to be able to do. I already said the session's being recorded. Let me just start. One of my favorite mentors, ministers, was a man named Russ Blowers. And Russ was certainly a hero of the faith. He was the minister at the church that I used to attend. He was the minister there for over 50 years. And incredible leader. He could, when he met people for the first time, if he met you 6 months later, he would remember your name and anything that you talked about. Just an incredible man. And before, every time that he would speak, whatever the service was, he would use Psalm 19:14. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. And so I've just kind of adopted that too, as I work with my clients, as I teach, as I do anything, to have that awareness that what I say and how I'm thinking, I want that to be pleasing and acceptable in God's sight. And sometimes that means standing up for things that other people don't agree with. And so I always want to be sure that when I do make a stand for something, it's a God stand and not a Mary stand. And that's been something that's really been helpful to me. So I just thought I would share that with you tonight in terms of some of you were asking in your discussion posts about, how can I keep focused on the Holy Spirit and that it's really God and the Holy Spirit who do the work in the session. It's not me. And so this is one of the ways that I do that. I think I've shared with you before, and I've shared with a couple of you on the discussion posts, that the other thing that I do is every morning before I start to see clients, on the mornings that I see clients, I pray over every single one of my clients. I pray specifically for them. I pray for what we've been working on. And I pray that God will give me his eyes and his ears and his heart in the session so that I see what he wants me to be able to see. And I hear beyond the words to what he needs me to hear. And above all, that I love this person sitting across from me with the love that God offers to them. And then when I wrap my day up before I leave the office, I pray again through each of the clients that I've seen that day, and placing them in God's hands, because he's the 24-hour counselor. I'm not. I am not available to my clients 24/7. That would be exhausting for me, and I would wind up being useless to my clients. I am available to them in crisis and in emergency situations, but one of the things that we talk about is what constitutes a crisis and what constitutes an emergency situation. And that they're feeling anxious, that doesn't constitute a crisis or an emergency situation, because what I want them to do in those moments, in those times, is I want them to use their grounding techniques. I want them to use their safety plan. Because I want them to be learning what they can do to self-manage rather than depending on needing to talk to me to bring their anxiety back under control, or to talk themselves out of a low place. So, so just something that I wanted to share with you. Does anybody else have a favorite scripture or something that as you're working with people, you like to use it to ground you? Well, if you ever think of something, or if you ever have something, please feel free to share it, because one of the things that we love is to always be able to share with one another. So, so having said that, our agenda for tonight is I want to do a check-in and catch any of the questions and answers that you guys might have. We're going to look at that self-inventory, because tonight we've kind of revamped the virtual classroom, and we've revamped what we're going to do tonight to try to take some of the load off of you, because we're hearing from a lot of our students right now that just with everything that's going on, y'all are just feeling overloaded and overwhelmed. And I know the faculty is experiencing some of that as well. I intended to spend today grading, and I'm going to be working with the kickoff as a group facilitator for the kickoff. And Scott sent us a whole bunch of stuff today that had to be looked at, read, and responded to immediately. So, so my time to grade got shifted over into prepping for kickoff, which is next weekend. Not this coming weekend, but weekend after next. How many of you are going to kickoff or coming to kickoff or participating in kickoff? Oh, good. That's excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Going to take a look. So what we're going to do tonight then is take a look at some of those activities in Learning Activity 3. We're going to look at the self-inventory, the supervisory responsibilities, and then I've kind of changed again the third one where you were supposed to be looking at different styles of supervision. And I've worked that into taking a look at the case of Miranda in your book. And I'd like for us to break into some group rooms to do that. So that's it for that's my agenda for tonight. And as always, I bow to your agenda. So let me stop this share, and we'll come back to this in a minute. What's on your minds and hearts tonight?
Personally, for me, I think the role play, last week role play was really tough.
Okay.
The whole suicide, the person wasn't willing to sign the informed consent.
Okay.
So I remember, Dr. Townsend talking about the difference between just suicide ideation and someone who's actually planning everything out and
Ideation and intent.
Yeah, ideation and intent. So, yeah, I just had a really difficult, so if they don't sign it, I mean, ethically and even pastorally, I feel like I need to jump in and start attuning and start trying to process. Yeah, so that was really, really tough.
We certainly want to attune, we want to process. What do you guys think? What if we have somebody who absolutely refuses to sign the informed consent? What do we do?
I think the first thing is to find out why. What are their motives? Why don't they want to sign it?
What are they concerned about?
From there, I don't know exactly. Yeah.
You're breaking up.
I don't know exactly what to do from there, but I would find
we're not understanding what you're saying.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but it's real scratchy. We can hear you, but we can't hear you. We can't understand what you're saying.
Okay. I might log off and get on another computer.
Okay.
Let's see if it works better. Okay.
So anybody else while we're waiting for him to log back on?
Yeah, I have something.
Go ahead.
With the paper, I'm kind of having a hard time with it. Like incorporating the ethics into it. Like, how do you go about that?
Okay, let me come back to that because I wanna kind of address Eugene's concern here first.
Okay.
What do we do when somebody refuses to sign the informed consent? Obviously, the great suggestion, and that is, and Eugene, I think you said this as well, that we want to attune, we want to explore what their concerns are with signing the consent to treat or the informed consent. If after we've done that, they continue to refuse to sign, what do we need to do?
Well, even in this context, I think we're not just talking about, oh, I just don't want to sign it, right? We're talking about someone who is suicidal, right? So it's not
okay.
just, okay, you don't want to sign it, that's okay. So I
Mhm.
don't feel like if they say, I don't like this paper, I don't like this, then yeah, okay, then refer to someone else. But I think we're talking about an urgent situation where a person is suicidal.
Mhm.
Then what do? We can't just say bye-bye, right? Or
No, we don't want to do that.
Mhm.
But what we can do, again, is give them an option. I am concerned about your safety. And so I need to let you know that you have some options here. You can call someone to come pick you up and take you to the ER. Or I can call a police officer who will escort you to the ER, who will take you to the ER to be evaluated. Which of these would you like to do?
None of them. I'm out of here. See ya.
Well, I'm afraid that if you leave having expressed the suicidal ideation that you've expressed, the possibility that you could be a threat to yourself, I'm afraid that I will have to call the police and report that.
So even without them signing the consent. Okay.
Absolutely. If you think somebody is suicidal, you do not let them leave your office without a plan, without a game plan. And that means, you can't stop them from leaving your office.
Right.
If they leave your office, you immediately pick up the phone and call the police. And you tell them, such and so has just left my office, refusing to cooperate with a safety plan. They have indicated that they may be a threat to themselves. You give them the person's name, home address, phone number, any information that you have, which at that point you should have. And then it becomes a matter for the police.
Okay. So it's
What
not a
you
matter for
don't
me.
do is you do not put somebody in your car and take them to the ER.
Okay. So at that point, I don't even try to figure out whether it's just ideation or intent.
Well, you should have already figured that out. If it's, you should have gone through questioning, talking with them to ascertain whether or not they're thinking about harming themselves, or they're thinking about it, they have a method, and they have the means. And that happens as we're talking with them, and we're asking very specific questions. Are you considering suicide? Are you considering committing suicide? Do you have a way to do that? If the answer is yes, then do you have a way to do that? If they say, yeah, I've been saving pills for months, do you have, are those pills where you can get to them easily? Well, yeah, they're in the stand beside my bed. Okay, now we've got ideation, we've got means, we've got method.
Okay. But if they say no to those two, method and means,
Yeah, if
they
they
just
say
say,
no to those two,
and I don't want to sign it still.
then I'm going to ask them to come up with a safety plan.
I don't want to talk to you.
Well, that's pretty much up to them. If they they can refuse to do it. You know, one of the things that we have to recognize is the limits to our power. That's when you have to make a decision, and this is a place where I would do some consultation. You have to make a decision, is this lethal enough? Am I concerned enough about this person that I think they need a next step? Or are they safe enough? You know, will the person tell me, I'm not going to do anything? Will they agree, I'm not going to do anything to harm myself until we talk again? And that talk is until we meet face to face again. You know, will they agree to that? If they won't agree to that, then again, I'm going to go back to those options, even if we think it's ideation and not intent. If they won't agree to that, I'm going to go back to those options of you can call someone, have them pick you up here and take you to the ER, or I will call the police and they will take you over to the ER. You can have your choice. Okay?
Thank you.
Uh-huh. I know this is tough ground, and we want to practice this one over and over again because it's one that concerns us. You know, I think one of our biggest fears is that a client will harm themselves or harm somebody else, and we will maybe have missed cues. So we are responsible for doing due diligence. We are not responsible for anyone else's life. They are responsible for that. They're responsible for the choices that they make. But we are responsible for doing our due diligence to make help available to them. Okay? Great question, Eugene. Great idea. Diane, go ahead. You had something about the ethics paper and incorporating ethics.
So actually, piggybacking on Eugene, let's say the person comes into your office and does sign the paper and has the suicidal ideation, intent, means, and method. Do you immediately also, like, you have your course of A, B, C, and D based on where you work, who you call, and how you then become incorporated?
Based on my policy, yeah, on my.
But if they don't sign the form consenting me to help, then they have those three options: ER, police, call someone to pick them up. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You cannot have surgery without a physician's signature either.
That's right.
Or without your signature either.
That is absolutely right. Absolutely right. And you know, I can tell you in 30 years of practice that I could count on one hand the number of clients who were suicidal that I have had. And I see people who've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I see people with biggest part of my client is trauma recovery. And I can honestly say, I know this is something we need to be prepared for this because it can happen, and it does happen. But I can honestly say that in 30 years of practice, I could count on one hand the number of clients I've had who were suicidal.
I have a question.
Yeah, Justine.
I'm just like wondering, like what was like the worst like suicidal like situation you've been in? Because like I don't know, like that just gives me an idea like what the worst could happen, you know.
I asked a question about 3 questions ago.
What was that?
I'm sorry.
About my paper, about the paper.
Oh, Katie, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I
I'll
thought
go.
it was
I'll go after her.
Diane.
I'll go after.
Let me catch Katie over here,
Yeah, that's
and
fine. Totally.
because I missed that. I thought it was Diane that asked that question, so I'm so sorry, Katie. Yeah. So your question is about incorporating the ethics piece into your paper. What are you writing about?
I'm writing about basically aging in Alaska, kind of at-home care in Alaska. Yeah,
Okay.
a lot of people up here, kind of in the middle of nowhere, so there's a lot of ethical concerns.
Okay. So, you guys, let's brainstorm a little bit for Katie.
It's sort of
What
hard.
might be some of the ethical concerns that would be facing somebody who is doing elder care in a remote region, not necessarily just Alaska, but any remote region, rural? What might be some of the things that we would need to be aware of?
I did do online. I
I'm
did.
sorry?
I did put online into my paper. Online counseling.
Okay, so if you're going to do online counseling, then you need to be sure that you are covering all of the ethical bases that are important on online counseling, especially the privacy, confidentiality. In a rural setting, I would think that that you would also need to take into account equipment failure. What if you're in the middle of a session and your internet goes out? You know, what
Yeah, that would be
happens
hard.
then? What do you do then? So
Call.
can you think of other things that if we were in a rural setting might be ethical issues?
Well, if you were living in the same town, it'd be small town issues. You know, you live in the same community, you're expected to interact with everybody all the time.
Okay. So how could that become an ethical concern?
Because you go to church with these people, you socialize with these people, and it's kind of hard to.
Okay, so there could be some dual relationship issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That was helpful.
Anything else that you guys can think about?
I'm just
Yeah,
thinking
go
about
ahead, Jessica.
just elder abuse, where people are in a place where they can't get a lot of help.
Elder abuse, absolutely, absolutely. How do you gauge the potential of elder abuse, and then what do you do if you're concerned? Who do you report to?
Keep in mind that the policing isn't very much because the Alaska State Troopers have to fly into a lot of these places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's no police.
So then you need to know what the alternatives are. What else can you do?
Yeah.
You know, if there are not immediate resources available, then what are your options if you have an elder who's being neglected or abused?
Mm-hmm.
Katie, what if you knew the different resources in the different areas that you chose to decide to do telehealth with? So you have certain counties or places in Alaska that you're comfortable with because you have enough support if something goes wrong like that. Because I would think that depression and suicide and neglect and abuse might be actually big issues in rural areas like that.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, it's the highest per capita of everything, pretty much. Suicide, incest, murder, alcoholism, substance abuse. You look in the charts, it's like way the heck up there.
Somebody just typed in safe houses, like knowing where those safe houses are.
Yeah.
But if you're in a village, you can't really. They're not going to be any safe houses.
Yeah, that's. I would think in some of the rural areas, safe houses would probably be rare.
Wouldn't be happening. Because all these people are all related and they're all family. So they're more accepting of it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, but it's the norm.
And that's the cultural piece of it. That there could very much be some cultural ethical issues of what's acceptable in the community.
True. Okay.
And people not seeing what you're seeing as a problem, not seeing it as a problem.
Yeah.
Or a concern.
It's the culture. In the state of Alaska, it's legal to marry your first cousin.
Hmm.
They did that from the natives because the villages are so small that so they're legal to marry their first cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why it's so important to know the cultural climate of whatever area you're working in. We have areas of the United States that's true of.
Oh yeah.
Appalachia, the Indian reservations, the Indian um, uh, uh, mhm. It's not reservations, but that's the only word that's coming to my mind right now.
It's the reservations, the Indian
Is
reservations.
it
Yeah,
brain fog?
it
So,
is.
uh, so does that help, Katie? Does that give you some ideas?
Yeah, that helps out a whole lot because I was more concentrating on the abuse aspect.
Yeah.
But it had in my mind it's not really an abuse paper. It's about ethics. So then I was just sort of my brain was kind of stumped.
Yeah. 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 It's making that bridge to, okay, so what are the ethics of abuse?
Yes,
What do I
the
need
ethic.
to be thinking
What's the
about as a,
ethical portion? Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And that's what I was stumped on.
All right.
So
That makes sense. Thanks for asking your question because I bet you
I
weren't the only one.
I appreciate it. I'm just trying to
Sure.
tie everything in together. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
Justine, you had your hand up and there's something in the chat. There was something in the chat here.
Well, it was just me, like, just like being wondrous and wondering what was like your, like, the worst, like, suicidal
Oh, that's
thing that
right.
you
The
had.
suicide,
Just
worst
like as an
suicidal.
example, just so I can, like, I don't know, hear about it, because I'm still like new to the thing of like suicidal and counseling. So I was just like wondering. That's all. That was like my
Well, like I
question.
said, they've been few and far between. Um, uh, the two that actually um, resonated. Um, I was seeing a young woman
Mhm.
in her 20s. Um, um, actually, with both of these, though, neither one of them really intended to commit suicide. That was not their intent. Um, both of them were borderline clients. They um, uh, they were they were doing self-harm. Or the one was doing self-harm, and she misgauged misgauged the amount of pills that she took, and her parents found her. Um, they were able to get her to the hospital. They pumped her stomach. Um, she was fine. Eventually she was fine, um, but
Oh my gosh.
um, but she and I had some long conversations about.
And
Uh,
then when they come back from like hospitalization, like what happens like after counseling? Do they feel like embarrassed or like how do you
yeah, and
work
those are
through
just
them?
all things we talk about.
Yeah. So like how do you like counsel them like after that? Like do you just go right into it or like do you have to
Attunement,
like
yeah, lots of
comfort
attunement.
them for a
You know,
little
you've
bit
been
or
through a really rough time.
yeah.
Let's talk about what that's been like for you.
Okay.
Let's process that. Um,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, I have not had anyone who has successfully suicided. I have
Okay.
friends
That's
who
actually
have,
good.
and one of the hospitals that I was working in, not the program that we were running, but in another program, one of the patients suicided on the unit.
Oh my gosh.
So one of my jobs was to deal with our clientele,
Uh-huh.
who of course were exposed to that. And so we had to do some debriefing groups with them. And of course they had a lot of questions.
Yeah, I guess I'm with them, like just so many questions.
Yeah,
Just wondering how to deal with all of those, like, I don't know. That would probably be like the most struggle that I would have for sure with like counseling.
yeah.
That was my question. Thank you.
And Macy, you're saying that somebody in internship, I'm sorry, I did not mean to do that. somebody in their internship had somebody?
Yeah, I believe it was like a couple that was coming in, and one of the spouses committed suicide. Obviously, I don't know any details. None of that was shared, but
Oh my gosh.
someone was telling me that someone like had to deal with that in their class.
Oh,
So,
what a scary thing. Now, we
Right.
have had a number of interns who have had to deal, particularly ones who were working with adolescents, who've had to deal with suicidal ideation and getting a safety plan, and that is absolutely a time when we do not want you. If it's your practicum or your internship and you're concerned, we want you pulling a supervisor in immediately. Um, uh, I, I don't like to do horror tales, but a number of years ago, I had an intern at a church I was working at, and I had concerns about her. I had told her supervisor at the university that I was concerned about her readiness to be working with clients and to be in the field. And one of the things that we did was we worked with one of the women's homeless shelters here in Indianapolis. And she saw a client one day, did not consult with me. And that client was suicidal. Fortunately, the client talked to one of the women workers there at the center, and that worker then, her supervisor called me and said, "Were you aware of this? What needs to be done?" And I said, "Had no clue." So first of all, we took care of the client. We took care of the woman, and we got her someplace where she could be evaluated and where she could get some help. Then the supervisee and I sat down and talked through some things about responsibility and accountability, and not letting a client walk away when they've told you that they're point blank told you that they want to kill themselves. So we can have all kinds of adventures. What's important is for us to stay calm, do what's best for the client, and not be over responsible. So my big concern is not, am I going to get sued about this? My big concern is what is best for this person sitting in front of me, and what can I do that has the best chance of keeping them safe? And sometimes that best chance of keeping somebody safe is that I call somebody else to come get them. I call a police officer to come and transport them to the ER. By the way, an ambulance, it doesn't do any good to call an ambulance. An ambulance will not transport them to the ER in a suicidal situation. Other questions that you guys have, thoughts that you have? How are you doing? When he gets yours done, Jessica, does he want to come do mine?
I'm so sorry. I feel like
Oh,
it's
you're fine.
distracting. I have all my kids are here.
Teasing you.
Like, stop walking in the screen. Anyway, sorry about that.
Oh,
But I'm trying my best to stay focused. I apologize.
yeah,
if it's
you're doing
distracting.
fine. You're doing fine. Just giving you a bad time. All right. Other questions, questions or thoughts that you want to share? Because I do want to try to keep us going. I'll bet we don't get to all of the activities tonight, but
I had a thought.
yeah, go ahead, Jessica.
I was having a little bit of a hard time just trying to kind of chase down the actual laws in my state. I called the DHS, the Department of Human Services
Mhm.
today finally, and they sent me a couple things, but it still seemed a little vague to me. Like one of the things I was reading in our book, in some states that you're supposed to report child abuse if domestic violence is occurring in the home and the child sees it. Just things like that. I guess I'm having a hard time finding exact laws. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
What have you been searching under?
Oregon laws, Oregon state laws. I did find a website that had laws around counseling, but they were these statutes that did not make sense to me. I didn't understand what it was saying at all.
Yeah, that's the problem with law, is that sometimes the language is just so convoluted that it's hard to make any sense out of it. So is there perhaps a family law attorney in your city that you could ask them to point you toward resources for what the statutes say, what the laws say?
There might be, yeah. I could do some more research.
That could be a
yeah.
Yeah.
An idea.
The other thing might be to Google not just the statutes, but reporting domestic requirements for reporting domestic violence, or
For mandatory reporting.
yeah.
Yes, I did look at that too, and it just seemed a little vague to me. But
Well, and it may. I don't know what Oregon's. I'll try to backtrack that. Maybe take a look at it, because I'm not familiar with what Oregon's laws are in terms of reporting.
right, okay. There was also the
because a lot of the states that now that
Mhm.
kind of picked up the mandatory reporting law, they did it in kind of a vague way. It was kind of, they were piggybacking on to other states who spent much more time researching and writing the laws and revising the laws. And I
makes
don't know if
sense.
Oregon is one of those states or not.
Yeah, I could not find whether, like with a Tarasoff, if it's mandatory or permissive, that kind of thing. But so I'll just keep doing some research.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. And let me know if I can help track some stuff down for you. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. All right. I'm gonna pull back up our agenda for tonight. Our okay. Why is it there? It is. You were supposed to look at the self-inventory at the beginning of the chapter. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is to pick, we're just going to kind of do a round robin. I'm going to ask you to pick a color. And then I've got my book color coded. And so when you pick a color, then I will throw out one of the statements, and you can tell us whether it applies to you, whether you have questions about it, whether it's something that would be you would agree with, that you would it be a concern to you. So we're just going to kind of go through the self-inventory and take a look at that. So let me see here. You can pick one of 5 colors: red, blue, yellow, green, or purple, or red, green, blue, yellow, or purple. And let me go back out of this so I can come back to you all again. And I'm just going to kind of go around the room here. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to be checking you in for attendance for tonight. So Rochelle, can we start with you? What color?
Yellow.
Yellow? Okay. Okay. Working under supervision is one of the most important components for the development of a competent practitioner.
I would say 5.
You say a 5 because?
It's accountability and to learn
Mm-hmm.
and probably for safety.
All right, all 3 of those things. For training, for accountability, and for safety. Absolutely. Thank you. Good. Hallie, pick a color.
Purple.
Purple. Supervision must be sure that supervisors must be sure that trainees are fully informed clients about the limits of confidentiality.
Yeah, I put a 5.
Okay. And again, think for that.
Yeah, I think that it's just the priority for supervisors is one of the priorities for a supervisor is the client safety and welfare. So just making sure that they know the limits of confidentiality would be important.
Have you gone over the limits of confidentiality with this client? And that should happen in the first session. Okay.
Okay.
Can't hear me? Okay.
Yeah, your voice was really soft for a little while, but it's
I'm
better
sorry.
now.
Okay, thank you. All right. Where are we going? Frederick? Can we come around this way?
Yes.
All right, pick a color.
Green.
Blue? Blue?
Green.
Green. All right. It's unethical for counselor, educators, and supervisors to be romantically involved with their current students or trainees.
I'm not looking at it. I think that would be a 1.
Yeah. That's strongly disagree.
Is that correct? Well, is that correct? Not looking at the.
Yeah.
Strongly. No,
And
no, strongly agree. I'm sorry, 5.
Okay.
I strongly agree. It's unethical.
It's unethical. Yeah. Yeah. Why would that be unethical?
Yeah, 5.
Uh-huh.
Because, well, you should not be. That's a dual relationship. You're not supposed to be. I don't know how to explain it.
Now you're on the right track.
It's immoral.
Yeah.
Beyond
any moral concern, it's a dual relationship. It creates that whole dual relationship.
That comes into play.
Yeah. That's a no-no anytime.
Yeah.
That's violates client or violates the counselor supervisees boundaries. It violates the therapeutic relationship between the counselor or the supervisee and the supervisor. Just never acceptable. So, Justine, give me a color.
I forgot the colors on there, but is there pink?
No, there's red, yellow, green, blue, purple.
I'll go red. I'll go red.
You'll go red. All right. Da, 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 da. Supervision at its best is focused on both the progress of the supervisee and on the client's problems.
Can you repeat it one more time? It was kind of like choppy for me.
Supervision at its best is focused on both the progress of the supervisee and the client's problems.
I would have to agree with that because it's always about the client's problems. Supervisors have the upper hand and they're always trying to see the progress of the clients so they can make sure they have growth and healing and making sure they're making progress and making less time with the counselors just for checkups. So like the best is like trying to get their problems out of the way, making sure they're healthy.
Okay, so that's going to be a key part of supervision. How about the progress of the supervisee?
It's not really so much about them. It's like always about the client because
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody have a different opinion on that one? Yeah, Jessica, go ahead.
I think that probably a really big part of that relationship needs to be working with the supervisee, and it's a part of the education of the supervisee to get to the place of being able to counsel in a good way. So I think it would be a big aspect of it. And then teaching, in one of the video that was in our learning activity talked about kind of helping the supervisee to contain that transference emotion and all of that too, and learning how to do that. So I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah. And that's an important thing for us to remember, even when we're past being in internship, or that when we are experiencing or when there is a problem with countertransference, we always want to be consulting outside the therapeutic relationship. And Frederick says he thinks they'd have equal importance. Yeah, you want in your supervision time, you want there to be the openness of the supervisor to hear what's happening with your clients and to process that with you. It's going to be a major part of what they're going to do with you. Also, you want feedback from your supervisor about how you are doing. What they're seeing in what you're doing that is helpful, and anything that they're seeing that maybe needs work. That's a part, that feedback is a part for you, is a huge part of the supervision process. And we want your supervisors to be providing both of those for you. We want them to be open and available for you to process clients. When you are doing supervision, you should be getting weekly supervision from your supervisor on either your practicum site or your internship site. That should be happening weekly. Okay, Jessica, give me a color.
Blue.
Blue. All right. Put my glasses back on. Ethically, supervisors need to clarify their roles and be aware of potential problems that can develop when boundaries become blurred.
So boundaries between the supervisor and the supervisee. Yeah, I think definitely from the beginning there should be an understanding of practice and what it's going to look like and what the boundaries and the roles are going to be. And our book talked about a form of consent form even at the beginning for supervisors to use.
Any idea what the most often
I'm so sorry. You became very silent. Oh, here we go. Can you
Again,
say that? Sorry. Can you say that again?
I'm back.
Yes.
All right. Any idea, you or anybody else, any idea what the most frequently crossed boundary in that area might be? In that
Like a
area of
guess.
relationship between the supervisor and the supervisee?
Like a one up, one down.
Okay, one up, one down would certainly be an important part of that. Can you think of others? Yeah, go ahead, Emily.
I was thinking like non-erotic touch, like hugging.
Okay, that would certainly be something that you'd want to clarify, wouldn't it? One of the biggest boundaries that gets crossed in supervision is when the supervisor tries to become the counselor, or the supervisee is trying to use the supervisor as their counselor. This is not a counseling relationship. This is a mentoring relationship. It's a professional level relationship, and it is not appropriate for supervisors to be counseling supervisees. You need to be referred to somebody else for that. Okay. There are other things that we kind of watch for, but that's a big one. Jessica's got a little cutie in the background there. He's leapfrogging up the steps. All right, Katie, give me a color. Can't hear you. You're muted.
How about blue?
Blue, there you are. Da, 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 da. Okay, well, we just talked about that one, so we won't use that one. Let's go back up here. Supervisors should be held legally accountable for the actions of the trainees they supervise.
That one was kind of a hard one for me. I suppose the supervisors, I mean, the trainees under them, that they are kind of their boss. So in a sense, they should be, I suppose, be watching them closely enough so they don't make these mistakes, I guess. So I guess they should be, yeah.
Yeah. Now, as supervisors, when we are supervising a trainee, you are under the umbrella of our license. And so we are directly responsible for anything that you do in that counseling room, which is why good supervisors are spending time talking with you deeply about what's happening, what your goals are with clients, what you're intending to do in working with clients. Their debriefing sessions with you. Because it is their liability if something goes wrong, which was part of the discussion that I had with my supervisee about not reporting suicidal intent to me. If that woman had gone out and suicided, that would have been on me. Despite the fact that she had not told me about the situation, it would have been on me. So that gets to be a little bit scary. See, Rochelle says, with the responsibility of a supervisor, is it difficult to get someone to commit to supervision? A little bit. Yeah, because it is a time-consuming task, and it's most of the time people who do supervision are doing it on top of their own caseload. So that's why we value the people who commit to being supervisors with you guys so much, because it's a donation thing. They don't get paid for that. They're donating their time to further the profession. So yeah, it is sometimes very difficult to get people who to agree to be supervisors. We're getting more and more people who are interested in supervision. So that's kind of encouraging. But it is a tough gig. Diane, I'm going to come up here to you in the corner, and then I'm going to skip back down to Emily.
Purple.
Purple. Supervisors have a role in advocating for their supervisees and clients in the educational and training settings within which they practice.
Yes, very much so.
Why do you think that is?
Because they are legally responsible for everything I do. So therefore they are going to want to teach well and train well and let me know those boundaries, and I'll sign that consent, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
Yep.
It's their practice.
They're going to want to keep things in order.
They will, won't they?
Yeah. Mind those P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Emily.
Yellow.
Yellow. Supervisors are counselor educators who provide therapy to current students or supervisees are behaving unethically. I kind of answered that a little while ago.
I'm going to say strongly agree. Thank you,
Uh-huh.
Professor. Yeah, just like you said. Yeah, it's one of the #1 boundary violations.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Very much creates that dual relationship. And it's sometimes difficult to discern between when a supervisor is giving you feedback and for your skills and working with clients when they're doing that, and when they maybe are crossing over into doing some counseling with you, because they're also going to be checking in with you each week to see how are you doing. But the thing is, if they begin to see that you're really struggling in an area, or that there's some strong countertransference in an area, it's going to be a time when they really need to, rather than trying to counsel with you for that themselves, they need to be referring you to someone else to talk to. Macy, give me a color.
Red.
Red, okay. Let's see. We did that one. Ethical guidelines are needed to protect the supervisor, the supervisee, and the client.
Yes.
Yeah.
For every reason that we just discussed.
Exactly. Yeah, that one is kind of a yep. No argument on that one. Eugene, give me a color.
Give me blue.
Gonna do a blue one again. Let's see, we did that blue one. Supervisees have a right to know what is expected of them and how they will be evaluated.
Yes, I strongly agree.
Okay.
Goes with informed consent, I think. Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't be fair or nor ethical.
Yeah.
If I don't know what is expected of me.
Yeah. And you, when you go into practicum or to supervision, you should have in your resources page on Blackboard, you should have a copy of the evaluation that your supervisor will be asked to complete both your site supervisor and your university supervisor are asked to complete an evaluation and to go over that with you. And that should be available to you in the resources area, so that you can look at that and know how you're being evaluated and what you're being evaluated on. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully that's kind of giving you an idea of talking through some of those things is giving you an idea of the significance of supervision, because sometimes it kind of gets swept to the side, and a lot of times I think maybe we don't go into supervision knowing what's expected of us, or what we can expect from our supervisors. So let's just real quick, kind of open discussion forum, talk about what are some of the things that are expected of you as a supervisee? What would be some of those things? Yeah, go ahead, Diane.
Keeping good notes.
Keeping good notes. Absolutely. Doing your paperwork. All of us struggle with doing paperwork, and paperwork is as much a part of your responsibility to your client as anything else that you do. Doing good charting, being sure that your notes are contain the information that is helpful. If someone else picked up that chart, would they be able to know what you've done with the client and what your intent to continue doing with the client is? So if something happened that you were no longer able to work with the client, would your charting be something that another professional could pick up and keep working with that client, have the details that they need to work with that client? The other thing is, and this won't be an issue for most of you, well, it won't be an issue in practicum or internship, is that documentation often makes the difference between whether your client gets services paid for or not, particularly if you're using a third-party provider. Because the insurance company wants to know clinically why you're seeing the person. They don't care about your opinion. If you talk to them about techniques, they want to know why you're using that technique, how it's going to be beneficial to the client, how it's helping the client. But they do want to know why you're doing what you're doing, and they want that to be in clinical language. So as much as possible, we want to be familiar with DSM-5, and we want to use criteria from DSM-5 and clinical language from DSM-5 whenever we possibly can. Again, insurance companies don't care what you think. They want to know what can you demonstrate clinically is going on with this client. And so what that means is you want to be sure that you include the length of time that the client has been experiencing the symptoms, the frequency of the symptoms, when was the last time the client experienced the symptoms, is the client currently experiencing the symptoms, and what is the level that the client is experiencing those symptoms? Is it mild, moderate, or severe? And you will, in another class, you'll do more with progress notes and that kind of thing, but it's that being ethical with our paperwork is one of our primary responsibilities to our client, and also to whatever organization we're working with, or to ourselves if we're in private practice. So let's see. Frederick, you said something about, didn't you? Oh, asking for what I need from my supervisor. Absolutely. Yeah, it's the supervisee's responsibility to speak up and say, you know, I'm needing this from you. I'm needing for us to process this client. I'm needing some feedback from you about how I'm doing in working with this client, or how am I doing in engaging with the other staff members here. And so asking for what I need. And as a supervisor, I would say asking for it before you immediately need it. Because one of the frustrating things being on that supervision end of it is to have a supervisee come and say, I need to talk to you about such and such right now. And you've got um, uh, clients stacked up and phone messages to return and all of those kinds of things. So part of that is you want to make good use of your scheduled time. Katie says, researching between sessions to learn more about your craft. Absolutely. If we are smart about this profession, we never stop learning. We are always looking for new techniques, ways to hone our skills, opportunities for certifications in areas where we're really interested in working. We are just, this is an ongoing learning profession. We want to keep up with the latest techniques. And with all of the advances in neuroscience, it's really been important for us to keep up with techniques. This year, we've kind of gotten hit with a lot of things that are super important. The telehealth, cultural issues, um, the what did I just say a minute ago? I'm losing my train of thought. Telehealth, cultural issues, neuroscience, what's happening in neuroscience, what are the mental health needs of people in a country that is under siege from a pandemic. So most states will require that you do CEUs once you are licensed. And some states require, like Indiana, we have to get 3 hours in ethics every year. We have to demonstrate that we've done 3 hours of ethics every year. Our 20 hours otherwise can be anything else that applies to our field, but 3 of the hours have to be in ethics. Being receptive, being taught by the supervisor and seeing things from a different perspective. Absolutely, Diane, having that openness, and you're being taught a particular method of working with clients. And it's important that you be able to use that method in working with clients. It's also important that you be open to learning from your supervisor on your site what their experiences have been, because most of them will have been in practice for usually a minimum of 10 years with supervisors. Sometimes it's less than that. But usually most of them will have been in practice for a minimum of 10 years, and they've got some experience that they can share with you and some things that they can help you with. So being open to listen to those. All of those are things that are the supervisee's responsibility to bring to the table. So great, you guys, that's good. Good stuff. And being aware that you as a supervisee have responsibilities, but your supervisor also has responsibilities. So I want you to, we're going to take just a minute here, and well, a few minutes, and I want to show you a little YouTube video. Let me go back to screen sharing, and Where is it? There. I want you to watch this and then give me some feedback on what you see happening in this supervision meeting that probably wouldn't be the best way to do this. I'm going to mute my microphone because I think that that helps with you being able to hear. But if you can't hear, somebody signal me so that I'm going to stop sharing. Stop the screen sharing. I thought I was going to stop the screen sharing. Okay, well, maybe not. I lost it. There we go. Let's try this again.
I think when you mute your mic, I think you might kill the sound of the video.
Now can you hear it? Still can't hear it.
Anyway, I'm late. So, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I've got an agenda here for what's been happening and what I want to go through. So I'd like to start with that.
Did I get that email you sent me?
Did you get my email? I don't know.
I don't know, did I? Did you send me an email during the week about something that had happened?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. I'm not sure whether I saw something from you. Look, it's just been nuts. It's been really, really crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, back to you.
Yeah.
Was it something about an incident that happened with a client?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to talk to you about.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's sorted, is it? Yeah.
No, I was wanting to talk to you about what happened because some things came up in that conversation, and I wanted to.
With that woman, the
Yeah.
woman you talked. She's hard work, isn't she? That client. I had her years ago. God,
really?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
And her husband's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to it, what happened when I was in this meeting? She
was at the meeting up on the third floor on the Thursday where everybody came and busted in.
Yes.
I heard about
actually.
that.
Were you there?
No, I heard about it.
Oh.
Yeah, apparently that was really funny.
It was quite difficult at the time.
I've got this on meetings. Oh, typical. Sorry, there's our clients, right? But anyway, back to you.
Do you want to cancel?
No, because I've got clients and I've got stuff going on at home I don't even want to talk about. God.
You just said you got a client. Wait.
Yeah, no, but you're more important. Well, you're just as important, and you've got this thing to tell me about.
Okay, so in the meeting, the husband and wife were sitting there, and they started having this argument. And
sorry, it's coming down. Jeez. bloody reception. Look, they're telling me that the client's threatening to leave if I don't go down now. No, look, stuff them. No, they can leave. Anyway, back to
Are
you.
you sure?
No, it's fine. Back to you.
We can make it another time.
No. We've got heaps of time.
I can
So
take it
you're in the
tomorrow.
meeting with the clients that I know.
Yeah.
So did you just tell them what the story was? They've just got to stop doing what they're doing and
Well,
get
no,
their
because they
lives.
started fighting and I was in the room and I didn't know what to do. So I wanted to leave to get the supervisor who they both deal with, but I couldn't leave him in the room arguing because I didn't know what would happen. So
So did you say, what did you say to them? Did you just say you've got to stop arguing? Why didn't you say just stop arguing?
because I was in there by myself.
Yeah, well, you've got to learn these things.
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. And bring you guys back in. Hopefully I'll get back. There we go. Now we're back. So what kinds of things did you see there that would be disruptive to a supervision relationship?
Gossip and electronics.
Aha. Yep. Both you and your supervisor want to set those phones aside during your supervision time. And you don't pick them up and look at them.
It was all about the supervisor.
Yeah. What kinds of things did you hear that were about the supervisor rather than the supervisee?
We lost you, Mary.
Am I back?
No.
Let's try this again. Better? Nope. Okay, it's plugged in, it's on. Huh. Still not hearing me.
It's just very faint.
I'm gonna switch. Is that better? Okay.
It seemed like the supervisor needed a counselor.
You think the supervisor needed a counselor? It kind of seemed like she needed a session with somebody, didn't she? What other things did you hear her or see her doing that would have felt uncomfortable to a supervisee? Yeah, go ahead.
Just kind of interrupting her and kind of saying, "Oh, did you tell them to stop, to cut it out?" Kind of just giving that, like, you should have done this and why didn't you do that? Instead of asking, like, what are your plans? What are your thoughts? Tell me how you reacted and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And there are times when it's appropriate for a supervisor to be directive, but most of the time it's much more helpful, just like it is with our clients, if a supervisor will invite you to explore whatever the situation is. So what about the personal information she shared? Or about her comment about, now there's stuff going on at home, we won't even go into that. Is that an appropriate comment to make to a supervisee? No, it's not. It is not. So I will post that video under along with the recording for tonight, so that you can watch the rest of it if you want to. because there are a number of violations there. And one of them that a lot of times we overlook is, did you notice that the door was not shut? Yeah, Eugene is nodding his head. Yeah, the door was cocked a little bit open. It wasn't shut all the way. And that would certainly be something that would be disruptive.
And also, she said, "Oh, I had them before, and oh, they're a piece of, you know."
How about her comment,
Uh-huh.
her editorial comment about the client? Yeah. Hmm. Now, would it ever be appropriate for a supervisor to indicate to a supervisee that a client might be a little difficult?
I think that's okay. I
Mm-hmm.
think that might even be a good guidance. But I think
Mm-hmm.
this was very more personal, almost gossipy, rather than professional.
Exactly. It's the tone and the presentation and the word choice. There is a way to do that that is therapeutically appropriate.
Yeah. And she said, I heard about the situation on the third floor too. So.
Yep.
She could have talked about some of the incidents she had, and these are the steps I took. These are the things that I did to resolve this kind of situation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she could have given some mentoring at that point. No. Guys, we are almost at the end of our time. The other thing I had planned for us to do tonight was to take a look at the case of Matilda. And I think you guys have got a good grasp on what's involved in supervision. The other assignment that's really important for you this week and why we wanted to kind of pare things down for you a little bit is this week you're looking into licensure in your state, the requirements for licensure in your state. This is really important for you to know because those requirements are different from state to state. And so as you are pursuing this program, it's important that you know that you are getting the pieces that you need for your state. For instance, and don't quote me on this because it may have changed and I didn't look it up before I got on tonight, but those of you who are in California, I believe that there are some additional courses that for licensure that you need to pick up. Yeah, Frederick's nodding his head, yes. And that may be true in other states. Florida, I believe, requires that there are some additional courses that you pick up that you need to pick up in the state of Florida. Not sure about Texas, but the Indiana, you do not have to pick up additional courses. Your 60-hour master's degree qualifies you to take the exam and to pursue credentialing, to pursue licensing. So, before we quit tonight, I mentioned this in the email that I sent out. I have made arrangements with Carl Becker, who is the attorney that has saved my butt more than once over the years by offering consultation. And this man is the one time when my records got subpoenaed into court, bless his heart, he appeared in court for me and didn't charge me a penny for it. And so he's just been, his law firm has been involved in family law for years. They've been active in supporting the community. They've done a newsletter, a quarterly newsletter for keeping everybody up on family law. And he is now working with domestic abuse. So I thought he might be somebody that you guys would be interested in hearing from and chatting with a little bit. And he is going to come next week. I know it's not a scheduled or required week. It's our last optional week, but that was the only week I could get him. So if you have questions, specific questions that you would like to ask Carl, if you'll shoot those to me, I'll get those to him. He has a handout for you and I will, he's going to send that to me end of this week or first part of next week. And as soon as he sends it to me, I will send it to you guys so that you will have access to it as well. So, but just wanted to let you know about that, he has agreed to come and talk with you and spend some time with you. And you can draw on his expertise next week. Questions before we wrap up tonight?
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead, Rochelle.
So as a pastor, we have to be super cautious about male, females, you know,
Yes.
and we're kind of guarding that boundary just for safety and integrity. So what does that look like when you're in counseling with like supervisor, supervisee? Because like you say, obviously the door was open and it shouldn't have been open, but I know even with us, if there's a man and a woman in a room, sometimes we'll leave the door open for integrity's purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There is no guarantee that we can pair up with a same-sex supervisor. And so we kind of put that under the same criteria as working with an opposite sex boss, where you would be getting feedback and supervision from an opposite sex boss. It's a little bit different. I think there still need to be and can be boundaries in place. For instance, meeting in a room that has a window in the door for supervision. You know, obviously, I would be really careful about any kind of physical touch. Beyond that, I think you just have to be as safe as you can be, and watch things like, thanks, Jean, see you later. You just have to watch things like going out to lunch together, or those kinds of things that a lot of times we just wouldn't think about. But put it into this context, and it's maybe not appropriate to go out to lunch together unless there's somebody else going with you. I am not a fan, absolutely not a fan, of having supervision meetings in restaurants or Starbucks or places like that, because you are not in a private, confidential setting then. And you don't know who's walking in. You don't know who might know your client. Bye, Macy. You don't know who might know your client. You don't know who might overhear you. So I absolutely discourage having supervision meetings and in a place like Starbucks or over lunch someplace, because I think that keeping those meetings private and confidential is a part of our responsibility. So, but I do understand, having been on a church staff, policy was that as female church ministers, we didn't go out to lunch with any of the guys by ourselves, or to coffee with any of the guys by ourselves. There always had to be a third person there. And we weren't even allowed to go out like with one of the elders or somebody like that. There always had to be a third person involved, just to maintain so that there was no question of impropriety. So, all right. All right, let me pray for us, and then let's go get some sleep. Father, thank you for this time that you carved out for us tonight. And my prayer is that everybody will just take away what you brought them here to hear, and that they'll be able to file this away in their toolboxes and have it available when they need it. They'll know where to come. And most of all, Father, we know to come to you, There is no circumstance that you will not lead us through. And you always have our backs, and you go before us into any situation that you call us into. So ask for rest and restoration, please. Everybody's tired and feeling a little overwhelmed and got a lot on their shoulders. So help them to just set that aside tonight and let you be the keeper of all of our concerns, and help us to rest in you tonight, and know that you will equip us for whatever tomorrow brings. We pray together in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. I will see you all soon. Bye-bye.